Ms. Steele, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairwoman Fox, for hosting this important hearing. Ms. Su, West Coast ports are the gateway to trade and our supply chains, as you know. The labor negotiations for the West Coast ports have gone on now for almost a year, and an agreement has still not been reached. Recently, West Coast ports and terminals were shut down after union employees walked off the job. Disruptions in the supply chain will damage our economy, and it's been done so because I saw a lot of ships during the COVID times that, it's lined up on the shore of my district at that time. Former Secretary of Labor Walsh acknowledged this when he successfully intervened in a rail strike that threatened the entire country. So question is, what's the Bureau of Labor Statistics telling you about the potential damage the West Coast port shutdown might have on economy and the labor market?
Thank you so much, Congresswoman. I was very proud to work alongside then Secretary of Labor Marty Walsh on that rail negotiation where we brought the parties in for 20 hours in our office and reached a tentative agreement. These negotiations can be complicated and they can be prolonged and there will be ups and downs. When it comes to the port, we're talking about 29 ports on the West Coast involving about 22,000 workers, ILWU members, and the parties have been in conversation. Since I got involved a couple of months ago, they did reach a tentative about some of their complicated issues, but they're not finished yet. They are still bargaining. They're still at the table. What you noted about the ships that were lined up, that was true. We all saw that, right? That is not the case today. That is no longer happening. And I think that part of that is a reflection of, workers showing up every day, doing the hard work, the same work they did throughout the pandemic to keep our cargo moving and keep our economy running. And it's a tribute to the employers who are also working very hard to make sure that that critical lifeline, as you say, to trade, to goods, stays operational. That has been true in the last few months since I have been here sitting in my seat as acting secretary, and I am committed to supporting the parties as they work through the issues that are on the table, and I understand that they are continuing to do that.
Thank you. It seems like that negotiation will be done, hopefully, that soon. But my question was, West Coast ports shutdown might have an economy and the labor market. What's the potential damages was my question here.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Yes, I'll have to get back to you on the exact figures about that, but in general, you are correct that the West Coast ports play a really critical role. I believe at one point it was like 40% of all cargo moves through some of the West Coast ports, but I can certainly see if we have more data. I think your general point that a resolution is important because so much of our economy relies on what happens in the West Coast ports is well taken.
So it's under negotiations right now, and it's very much hurting our economy. So what are you doing to prevent strike and further work stoppages? Because it seems like they just completely shut down after union employees walked off the jobs. I mean, that's not really acceptable here. So what you are doing to prevent in the future?
So, Congresswoman, the parties are definitely at the table. They are working through some difficult issues. There are lots of things for them to be talking about.
I hear that there are negotiations, but how about the shutdown?
Well, I'm not aware of a shutdown. There's what's really going on, and there's been some media reports that are not actually accurate. There is not a shutdown. Cargo continues to move in the ports. There has been maybe like a decade-long trend of some decrease in cargo coming through the West Coast. That is not as a result of the talks that are going on. But I think I agree with your general point that coming to a resolution and providing some certainty and clarity is good for everybody.
So then, you know what, let's go back to that, what kind of deal that, how are you going to resolve this dispute? That what kind of negotiations going on? You said there are really a lot of complications and there are a lot of things on the table right now. That how are we going to do it? And it's been, what, almost a year, and then negotiation was done. And that really hurts economy that I've been talking about. So what's on the table and how are you going to solve it?
Thank you.
How soon?
Thank you, Congresswoman. So I do want to restate that cargo continues to move at the West Coast ports, and workers continue to show up and do their jobs, even during negotiations. And the parties, the leadership of both parties is very hard at work trying to resolve the issues that they have.
Ms.
This
Sue,
idea,
I think if you would mind just submitting in writing to the Congresswoman the rest of your answer.
well, I could just close it really quickly, which is that this idea that these negotiations are complicated is not unique to this particular issue, but we see time and time again that the collective bargaining process does work, and unions and employers reach agreements about things that help to assure
Yes,
that the
you're a
work that they do
minute
continues.
over. Ms. Manning, you're